approve the Valley Crest contract.
Second.
Any discussion, comments, questions? Kevin, I would ask you, matter that came up last night about the tennis.
Take care of it.
What?
Take care of it.
What was the issue, Neil?
The tennis courts.
Yeah, late last night, a resident called Neil. We got on a conference call about the information included in the contract as it relates to the tennis court. And the resident had sent some information into Bill and Bob. And so I just checked with Bill, and I just have a copy of the contract that's going off to Steve Messer for his review, the attorney review. But all of that data that the resident asked for is included in the contract.
Yeah, Neil, I've been working with Bob Youngblood from the Tennis Association for quite a while, and I assured him the new contract. There was nothing of substance. It's just like on the common ground maintenance and the golf course maintenance, there was nothing of substance in the 2005 contract or the 2008 contract as far as addendum exhibits that specified cutting times, frequency, height, all that. That's all in there. Also, we lifted out the information from the RFP, the specifications that we sent out for bid, and that's been made an exhibit to the contract. And then the tennis court specifications it's a 5-page detailed specification that has been added to the contract.
Neil,
Yes, ma'am.
I think both of the companies were excellent companies, and I know Valley Crest has a track record with us, so I'm happy that we have someone that we're going to be assured that we're going to get the same quality. My problem for voting for this is that I think we need to do a better job with our RFP process. We had some snags in it and some little irregularities that I just have a problem with.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I have I just want to echo Val's comments. I have the same comments. Some issues with the way it was. I think we could have done a better job in the way we did it.
Okay. Beautiful thing is, we got a little for us. One of the things that we give you Valley Crest. A bonus for both of us. Any other questions or comments? I'll request a hands vote on this and just make sure that we got everybody.
We have resident comments.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are there any resident comments? Didn't follow my scripture, didn't you? Okay, all in favor signify by raising your right hand. Unanimous to me. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Item number 2, approve the south roof at the kitchen, $23,769. The south trellis system, $47,520.06. And the front trellis system, $47,520.06 from reserve.
Yeah, Bob, can we fast forward to and then go back? Yeah, okay. I felt it was important that we're now, the board is being asked to approve, and I'll go through which items they are, but I thought it was important for the board to understand, before they approve these amounts, sort of what the scope is of all of the capital expenditures that we're trying to get through this year and next year, and to see that scope before they actually approve this limited number now, which I think totals about $43,000. And the other thing I wanted to say is that these slides only deal with the capital. Now remember I talked earlier about operating cash. These slides deal with the operating cash. The reserve fund, in that other slide, that $1,200,000, the reserve fund covers everything that's being planned to do for the clubhouse, including the kitchen expansion. Okay? So I think the area of focus needs to be on the money that's being planned to be spent out of the operating cash for 2011 and 2012. Okay, so the completion of phase 1, that's $65,000, that's already been approved by the board. And that came into play as we were doing the new bar. The county told us as a result of the new bar and some of the other things we were doing, we needed more bathrooms. So the completion of phase one is putting the bathrooms down in the north end, down in the north end, and to get Gary Lynn out of his electrical office box and get him into a new office. So that's already been approved and that's already underway. What's coming today before the board, there's two items here, there'll be one other item on the next slide, but will be the completion of phase two, and Bill and Gary can address all of these. But like I said, I just want the board to understand the total scope of the capital expenditures. So you have roughly 11 grand, that's another 34, so the next screen, Bob, and then another 8. So again, this is just capital. There's additional amounts being requested from the reserve fund, but the reserve fund has the money to cover it. So these, again, this is just the operating cash expenditures. So the total for phase two is the $43,000. That's what's being requested by the board to be approved today. So the completion for phase one and two is going to total $108,000. Okay. The next screen, okay, now we get into phase three, part A. Okay, by putting the bathrooms in, it meant that the wood shop was taken away. So this request here of approximately $151,000 is to put the wood shop, in essence, next to the new bathrooms, and to come on down the length of the clubhouse, the bump out, to include a meeting room and some additional office space for the staff, employees, and the manager in the area where they're at now, expanding that office space. So that's an approximation of roughly $151,000 for that. And then the second part of phase three is replacing the lobby doors to allow for handicap access, so that someone can come up in a wheelchair, can push a button, and the doors will open for them. That's another $3,500. So that's the next screen. So the total of the phase three, part A and B, is another $155,000 roughly. So the total capital, and those projects will be approved at a later date. All we're doing today is just the $43,000 that I mentioned earlier. But again, I wanted to give the board an idea that it looks like there's going to be requests for about $260,000, $265,000 for capital this year. And then on top of that, next year, next screen, next year, as of right now, it's planned that we would do the kitchen remodeling for about $106,000. Again, that's just the expansion of it. There's more to be spent on the kitchen, but that's going to come out of the reserve. So we're talking about some significant capital expenditures, money that's being reinvested into the clubhouse. The question is, how do we afford to pay for it? Now, that, going back to 2011, that roughly $250,000, $260,000, when the budget is revised, and Bill and I work on that, when we get the revised budget, there'll be additional savings coming out, but we have to adjust the budget for the golf revenue shortfall. We'll adjust the budget for the Valley Crest contract, and then we'll go through and see what other savings we can pull out. And my hunch is what will happen when we see that, we'll do that within the next week or so. You'll see the contingency number that we have in the budget. That's the key number. The contingency number, in essence, is if the budget turns out the way we think it will be, that money will be equivalent to the income number, the $320,000 that we saw earlier. And that would help to reduce that $250,000, $260,000 requirement, because part of that will be paid out of current earnings. Then the question the board will have to deal with is the board okay, and Bill and I are, but it's a question for the board, is the board okay with temporarily reducing that $442,000 that we saw in that first slide, operating cash, reducing that down into the $200,000, $250,000. That'll be a decision the board needs to make, and whether it wants to change some of these proposals as well. As it relates to the kitchen remodeling, I think the board clearly understands is that so far in the last 2 years, we've been significantly outperforming the budget. Whether that happens this year remains to be seen. But if it is similar to previous years, where once again we significantly outperform the budget, then the kitchen will come into play, the expansion and renovation of the kitchen would come into play in 2011 as opposed to 2012. So again, I just wanted to give the board sort of the scope of all of the spending, and so where this $43,000 that's being asked for today, where that fits in terms of the total spending picture.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, I'm going to have Gary, just so you know, Kevin from the capital side, Larry Lampy, who's the chair of the reserve committee, and Gary Wing, our facilities director, we work hand in hand developing all these requests with the board. So I'm going to let Gary Wing, our facilities director, explain the next two projects and what they encompass. Gary?
Good afternoon, everybody. Number 2 item on the agenda is to approve the south roof at the kitchen. This is off of the back of the kitchen area. That is actually kitchen reserve monies. The south trellis system, which is the back of the billiard room and the magnolia room, $47,520.06, and the front trellis system at the same cost of $47,520.06. That's to we're replacing the trellis with a flat ID roof system, so we have covered shade area in the front and the back. The first part of that, the south roof at the kitchen, is to expand off the back of the kitchen where we have the aluminum boxed in area, which also takes on next year's expansion of the kitchen. So we'll already have the roof system in place when we put the walls up back there. So the first one is totally funded out of reserve.
Okay, do you want to make a motion, Neil?
Can I explain both of them? You done explaining?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's number 2.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the motion I just read. Oh, wait a minute, let's have a vote first. Is there a second? Okay, Bill seconded it. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Board discussion. Question?
Gary, I'm a little confused with the south roof at the kitchen. Is the kitchen only? Am I coming through? No, sorry. The kitchen expansion.
That's the part out of reserve. If you go on to item number 3, it has kitchen expansion. That's the new roof area off the back of the dining room.
Okay, but let's get back to the kitchen. That's coming under reserve because we're replacing an existing structure and improving it. Okay.
Coming out of the kitchen reserve money.
Yes, coming out of the kitchen reserve. The south trellis, can we go into that yet? Have we gone on to the south trellis?
Yes.
Okay. The south trellis is where we're going to put a fixed roof in the back for the seating area.
Yes.
Okay. And then we're going to the front trellis.
Yes.
What are we doing with the front trellis when we don't know what we're doing with the expansion of the front of the clubhouse?
The roof over it is part of the expansion. So if you do the roof, you approve the roof, it's part of the expansion if we approve the expansion.
The roof
will be there no matter what.
The roof will be there, but the expansion will be wider than the roof.
No.
Okay. Well, the other point that I want to make is that the construction committee of the board has not seen any blueprints for the front expansion, and that needs to be done before we can approve anything for the front.
The front trellis system is a totally separate project from the expansion. And the board needs to approve that today so we have it behind. The expansion is something different and a different project, and they're working on the blueprints for that right now.
We will be for the construction.
I understand, but we need a 5-foot hallway.
That's been taken out.
It's all changed.
When you were having your operation,